Hey everybody, it's Mr. Renner, and we are going to be doing a really cool story today about a lot of female scientists and female explorers who helped us explore outer space. So let's get started. You can open up your source books and we'll get going. So, yep, here we are. It is on page 418 in your source books. So go ahead and open your source books up to page 418 and we will get started. It is called Reach for the Stars, Amazing Women in Space by Lin Chang. This is a biography. Actually, it is a series of short biographies of various women who either were in space or helped us explore space. Space travel is filled with firsts. Did you know that the first woman in space was Valentina Tereshkova? Valentina Tereshkova. She traveled toward the stars in 1963 as a cosmonaut, or a Russian astronaut. Read on to review the amazing accomplishments of other women astronauts. Here we have a timeline. I don't know if you've seen a timeline. My book on this version only has half the timeline, but this timeline, it tells the years up here. So 1960, 60 years ago, or 61 years ago. 1970 is 51 years ago, 41 years ago. And then down here, they have some of the important facts, not just in the world, but important facts about amazing women in space. So we see here 1961, which is next to 1960. Alan Shepard is the first American to travel in space in 1961. 1963, we have Valentina Tereshkova, the first woman to travel in space. She is from Russia, so not from the United States. She's from the other side of the world in Russia. In 1983, so almost 40 years ago, Sally Ride was the first American woman to travel in space, about 20 years after the first Russian woman. We have a lot of biographies of Sally Ride, and we'll learn about her in a few minutes. And then down here, 1992, or about 31 years ago, 29 years ago, sorry, Mae Jemison, the first African-American woman to travel in space. In 1994, Ellen Ochoa, the first American Hispanic woman to travel in space. And this timeline stops at the year 2000. I don't think it keeps going. But anyway, we have a lot of females to learn about here. And that is how you read a timeline. Today, we're only going to read about two of these women, but we'll read about more of them before. And yep, you're right. We're going to read about the first two. Valentina Tereshkova. So this is now on page 419. Valentina Tereshkova was born in Russia in 1937. She spent only 8 years in school. Then she had to work to make money for her family. She continued to study by mail. That means that it's kind of like what we do now during COVID. She stayed at home and studied. They didn't have the internet, so she had to send everything in person through the mailman. She did her lessons at home and sent them back to a school to be graded. Tereshkova enjoyed parachute jumping. At age 24, she was chosen to train to become a cosmonaut. What do you think Tereshkova said when she spoke to groups? What makes you think so? We'll have to think about that in a minute. In 1963, Tereshkova circled the Earth 48 times, far above the Earth's atmosphere. She returned in just over 2 days. Her country named her a hero. Tereshkova then became an engineer. She also spoke to groups all over the world. Later, she received the United Nations Gold Medal of Peace for her work. So she was the first woman to travel in space, and 1963, so she's 25 years old. She circled the Earth 48 times, but that only took her 2 days to go all the way around the Earth, almost 50 times. This is what she looks like when she was older. Look at all those medals they gave her. She was really important. And now we have Sally Ride. Sally Ride was born in 1951 in California. She dreamed of becoming a tennis player. In college, she decided to become a scientist. She completed the highest level of study in science. Then Ride answered a newspaper ad to join the space program. 8,000 people answered the ad. Only 35 made it through the process for astronaut training. Sally Ride was one of 6 women accepted in the astronaut program. In 1983, after a pre-flight check of the space shuttle, Ride became the first American woman to fly into space. She and the rest of the crew did experiments in space using robots and other special tools. Later, Sally Ride became a college teacher. She told her space travel stories many times. She even wrote about her work in books for children and adults. Well, we're going to stop here for today for this story. I'll read the rest with you tomorrow. But let's take a look for a moment about our activity today, okay? So here we are. This is a packet page in your packet. I have it turned sideways here so that we can see it a little bit easier, but you all are going to do it the way that you want to. So first of all, we have to pick a couple of categories, and I'm going to give you one example, and then you all have to find things that fit in these examples. You could do whatever examples that you want to, but here's the one I'm going to pick. Okay, where is it? Oh, there it is. Yep. So we have women. This is how I write on my little tablet. It is very hard. And then we have men, and we even could do a third category. Why not? You don't have to do all 3. You could just do 2 of them. But we also have robots. So who are some of the men, women, and robots that have gone into space? Well, if we look right here, we could go back to our book, which is somewhere. Sorry, can't find it. Here, we go back to our book. On page 398, they can tell you the name of one of the men who went to the moon. And of course, on page 419, they tell you some of the women that went to the moon. We have to go all the way to page 419. I'll put those page numbers down and you see if you can find out what those names are. There's a lot of them. Actually, 419, 420, 421, there's a lot of them. There's also on page 419, 418, the name of one of the men that first went into space. So those are 2 really great examples. And I'm actually just going to put those page numbers right here so that you can see it, okay? We're going to be going to page 418. Whoops, sorry. Nope, that one. 418, also 398. And I'll put this on the page so that you can actually see it. And I think it was like around page 400, they were talking about that trip to Mars that all those robots did. You could also look there. So that's one really good example. Here's another really good example that you could choose if you want to. Okay. We could pick here. Sorry, there it is. We could pick people who went into space, women or men, and you know where in the book to find them. This is really bad writing. Oh my, yep, I'm not going to do that. Let's try that again. Okay. P-E-E-O, this is hard. P-L-E, people who went into space. And then here we could pick dogs who went into space. And I know we know a couple people who went into space. You can look in your book and you could find all kinds of them. You could probably even just ask Google who has been to space. But the dogs, well, let's just take a look here. I don't know if we had a chance. Maybe I'll read this story to you all on Friday if we get a chance. But if you look here on page 404, there are space dogs. Okay, so you have a couple options, right? You have a couple options for this activity. And of course, if you need help, let your teachers know. All right, have a good day, everybody. I'll see you tomorrow.